Thanks for the welcome, Renee. And I've got a few goodies here as well. I know people are hungry, but I don't have food, but other things. So feel free after the presentation. I've got some really nice fun food news with some recipes to take home for you and your family. I've got some free samples of Mrs. Dash, salt-free for those who might need, or someone in the family who might need, some assistance there. And I've got some other little products here. So, well, today I wanted to speak about the story of Desperate Joe. And Desperate Joe could be maybe frustrated Mary or stressful Joanna. But Desperate Joe is a businessman, a small business owner in his 50s. He's been in business about 15 years or 18 years. And like all business owners, and I really commend you all because I'm just starting out, but I know all of you wear a lot of hats every day or every moment of the day. You have to be a CEO, you have to be a CFO, you're a marketing expert, you're an accounting expert, a networking expert. Well, Joe, does the same thing. He sometimes in the morning wears a marketing hat, and then he's financial expert. And because of his busy schedule, food is really not a priority in his life. I mean, his priority is maintaining his family, going through the day, making new clients, business connections. So food tends to be more of the, like Renee was saying, just fast food sandwiches and rushing through the day. How many of you can relate to Joe as far as lunchtime? How many of you? Yes, I've got some hands. Exactly, finding something quick and easy, right, just to make the day, and just to make it through dinner or until dinner time. So Joe comes to me because after 15 years of living this kind of lifestyle, he has this chest pain. He goes to his doctor, and his doctor says, hey, you know what, Joe? You need to start slowing down, and, lifestyle changes are difficult. Behavioral changes are difficult, but if you don't take care, well, you're going to have a heart attack, right? So this was just the first stages of, wow, some chest pain and something's going on there. So he comes to me and says, well, what can I do? I know food is important, but I really don't have time for all this. So, well, we sit down together and I tell him, well, tell me a little bit about your day. How's your day? For example, breakfast. What do you do for breakfast? And he said, well, I'm in a rush because I've got the kids, to take care of, and I've got a 7 a.m. appointment and, other things going on. So just a cup of coffee and that's it. And that's what I do most days of the week. How many of you do the same thing like Joe? Just coffee and rush out the door? Yes? Okay. Excellent. And just to tell you, breakfast means that, breaking the fast. So if you've had dinner, whatever, at 6, 7, 8 p.m., and then you wake up and, until maybe lunchtime grabbing something quickly, well, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And I know we've heard it, right, but we usually don't follow it. So some of the options that I told Joe is, well, what is it you like? So he told me, well, I love cereals. I love to sit down and eat cereals like on weekends. So I told him, this is important. You can choose any kind of cereals with milk, maybe a non-fat milk as an option for breakfast. Just waking up 10, 15 minutes earlier. You don't need to wake up 1 hour earlier just to sit down with your kids and have a nice breakfast. So the main thing to look at is always look at the ingredients. Make sure that the first ingredient says whole grain. It could be whole grain oats, wheat, something with whole grain that has fiber, that's good for you and it's satisfying. So that's one option. You might like maybe crackers. He says, I love crackers. Well, there are several options out there of whole grain crackers too that have fiber. They're really good. And you can choose some other options as well and have your cup of coffee with some of these crackers. He loves eggs. How many of you like eggs for breakfast or over a weekend? Excellent. A great balance, I tell him, is combining eggs that have protein with some kind of carbohydrates like your crackers or your whole grain bread too. And if not, I know some of you, and I've heard a lot of the juicing that's so popular. Maybe you want a fresh fruit juice, right, that's so tasty, or veggie and fruit juice, or even a smoothie, some low-fat yogurt, some low-fat milk, and also add some combination of fruits. That's quick and easy, and at least you have these carbohydrates, this energy, that can last a few hours, right? So he said, okay, I'll give it a thought. Now, as I talk, I also want to pass along what I also taught Joe as we spoke during that conversation, is that At lunchtime, Joe has no time for lunch. So again, he's running around meetings. Sometimes he tells me, hey, until 4 or 5, I'm just driving around from West Valley to Phoenix to Chandler, back again, and it's lunchtime, it's 11, 12, 1, and the day passed, and I really don't have time. So I either stop and have a sandwich, or the famous fast food that we were mentioning, and at least my stomach is full and I get something. So here's what I told them. Well, I've been in the same situation. Just because I'm a nutritionist doesn't mean that I can eat perfectly well all the time. And yes, I also drive a lot through Maricopa County. So sometimes having things to take with you in your car, that could be an option. Obviously, it's not the best. I'm sure we all prefer to sit down and have a nice meal when we can. But if not, you might want to take something like some drinkable yogurt, a low-fat yogurt with you that has calcium, vitamin D. It's nutritious instead of your typical sodas. Maybe you want to have some cheese, string cheese, or individual, cheese portions with some crackers that you can take in the car. Maybe you want to make your own trail mix. I know there's a lot of trail mix out there. Some of them are higher in fats or oils. You can make your own, and I just personally like to combine maybe whole grain cereals and raisins and nuts and seeds, and just make what you like, or even for your own kids, what they like too. And maybe a little box of raisins or something that, even if you can't have a formal lunch, as long as throughout the day you can divide your meals in 4 or 5 small meals, you'll always have that energy you need for wellness on the go, right? So he thought, okay, that's fine. I can't really, sit down for lunch, but I can manage 2 or 3 little snacks throughout the day. And then what happens is that, so Joe, you get home and, what's for dinner? Well, Joe tells me the problem is sometimes I get home very late. I've been running around like crazy from one meeting, seeing clients networking afterwards, and I am so hungry. I'm just starved. So even before dinner, that my wife, prepares this wonderful meal and she really takes care of us, I just open the fridge and I just grab whatever's out there. And I eat it pretty quickly, he says, because I'm just starved. So, if there's leftovers of yesterday, I'll eat it cold. I'll open the cupboard if, the kids have some yummy, chocolates and Lucky Charms and just chips, a bag of chips. Well, I'll grab that and I want to sit down, rest on my couch, watch TV, and if you ask me what I ate before dinner, I don't know, because I was in just such a rush to gobble something, because I was just starved from the whole day just running around without time to sit down for a formal meal. So this is what I told Joe, and this is what I'm sharing with all of you with this flyer that's going around. The lunch, if you can have a formal meal and sit down, that's great. If not, here are some options. But for dinner, what the new recommendations are that just came out in June of this year, you might all know that Michelle Obama, since last year, is doing a lot of task force with childhood obesity and epidemics, and she's brought a lot of new ideas to Washington, D.C. Some of you might be aware of the food pyramid, which was a traditional 20-year pyramid with portions that people used to have to measure and bounce around with spoonfuls and cups. Are any of you familiar with the food pyramid? Okay. Yeah. What is it?
I fell over and I live by.
You live perfect, and that's perfectly fine. And for the rest of you, the flyer that I just passed along is what just came out in June of this year. It's called the New Food Plate. And the nice thing about the New Food Plate is that it really, for Joe and for the rest of us, it really makes it easy to follow a lunch or dinner when you're able to sit down at the table. First of all, it's called a food plate because we all have some kind of a plate at home, right? And so the easiest way not to have to measure so much is that you take your plate, half of your plate should be of vegetables and fruits. So that could be a cup of salad, it could be half a cup of cooked veggies. Just so you all know, a cup is approximately your fist. So we each have different size fists, that's a cup. Fruits. Nowadays, I know this morning we were networking and we were sharing, I think Deb was telling about some delicious salad that we can make where we combine some veggies and fruits. So we can have maybe tomatoes, melons, and celery, and combine the fruits in half half of this plate. The other quarter of the plate should be mostly of proteins. How many of you can give me some example of what would a protein be for? Yes?
Beans, meats.
Perfect. So a quarter would be maybe half a cup of beans, lentils, meat, 3 ounces of meat. Look at the portions, it's kind of like the palm, the size of the palm of our hand. But, you know, really 3 to 4 ounces is what would fit in a quarter of our plate. So a little bit eggs as well, that's also part of the protein. And the other quarter of the plate should be related to any kind of grains. Before I was speaking about the whole grain, so maybe the brown rice or whole grain pasta. So again, half a cup approximately. Now, portions will depend on obviously each one of us, what we need, the fitness level we do, and our activity level and so on. But see here that more or less half a cup of rice or pasta would fit in our plate. And we know, and also our tortillas or bread. And by me showing you all these portions, how many of you really feel that you just have a quarter of rice or of spaghetti when you eat pasta?
Times 4.
Times 4, exactly, Renee, times 4. I don't either. I don't fill up my plate completely, right, with delicious spaghetti and pasta. Maybe I'll even repeat it. So what I was telling Joe, he needed to lose a little weight, is that portions are also important. And if you just maintain this simple food plate where you don't have to be with cups and spoons and saucers and calculations of the kitchen scale, wherever you are, just keep this in mind. Half of it, vegetables and fruits, a quarter whole grains, and another quarter for your proteins, meats, fish, chicken, eggs, and so forth. And so Joe said, okay, that's not such a bad idea. And what he did was, and this is what I recommend others, is get together with your family members or your neighbors, whoever you're with, and try to plan ahead. Because I know that every week is different for small business owners. Sometimes we've got lots of meetings, other weeks might be, less busy. But if you can plan ahead over the weekend, sit down, maybe say, hey, what are we going to cook for this week? Have things planned. If you've got kids or grandkids, take them maybe to a local grower, a farmer's market that we have such wonderful ones, around here. The Wigwam on Sundays has Duncan Farms and others are there. Get to know your local growers. That's a great way for grandkids or kids to learn how to eat, fresh and local. And when you plan ahead, and I know that happens to me, when I plan ahead on weekends, I eat much better during the week. And when I'm in this chaos of running here and there and forget it, I'm buying every day at the grocery shop, I'm spending more money, I'm eating incorrectly, I'm eating quickly, and I just lose track of, the healthy eating behavior. So planning ahead, distributing your meals throughout the day is important. Thinking about the food plate is something, essential and easy to follow. And then using just these techniques of different snacks and options when, we're on the go and we can't have a formal meal. So Joe said, okay, I'll give it a thought. And so, with that, I said, wonderful, and the important thing, Joe, is just make one change at a time. Don't think that everything we talked about today, you're going to start making a change tomorrow or Monday morning. Just say, okay, for these 2 weeks, I'm going to dedicate to breakfast. Once I get that taken care of, I'll try to figure out what to do for my lunch. So little by little, month through month, I'll start making lifestyle changes that we're able to make in an easy way. So with that, thank you so much. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have. Yes?
I got one. Francis cookies, the dessert. You left off the dessert.
Just a treat.
That's a great question. And why not? I can personally say I love chocolate. I love Francis cookies. I've ordered some cookies for Friday to give to friends, and I just, love her cookies. And again, it's all a question of portion size, right? Maybe you'll eat half of Francis cookies and save the other half for the next day, right? And if not, like we say, it is a treat. It's the variety and it's the spice of life, right? To eat something sweet too. So it's not a question of we're not able to eat certain things. It's just a question of balancing throughout the day, right? If we eat cookies or chocolates all day long, that's not good. But if you say, hey, for dinner, I really want Francis cookies. I mean, my fruit, my veggies, why not?
Be good, right? So I can have a good.
You can have our cookies.
Debbie?
Yes.
Well, for the purpose of our group,
Yes.
I think if we collectively agree that if we do not exceed 12